A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 178th edition of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Just over 2 years ago, when the pandemic had just started, we at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on, discussing the problems that they were facing with online education and the rising need of digital learning, and arrive at common solutions. Today, 178 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we could have ever anticipated, all thanks to your love and support. We have discussed extremely curricular topics here like digital learning, NEP and assessments, extracurricular topics like sports, theatre, topics like school finance and management, and even evolved topics like mental health. Today, we have a very interesting and relevant topic, overprotective parenting. Parenting, as we all know, is a process of bringing up a child. The parents are the first influence that a child has. The parent is tasked with the development, the wholesome life, the quality of life that a child has. And then off late, we have been hearing this term, helicopter parenting, where parents tend to get overprotective, overbearing, sometimes trying to live through their children vicariously, at other times protecting them from every single influence and every single experience that would have perhaps contributed to this child growing up. Well, we have an expert panel on our hands today to discuss various aspects of when does parenting become overprotective. Our first speaker on this topic is Major General Neeraj Bali. General Bali is an Indian Army veteran who served for nearly 4 decades as an infantry officer. His rich operational experience came from several tenures on the border at Jammu and Kashmir, the Northeast, and Africa. He has also been the CEO of an educational society, running 92 schools and colleges with over 40,000 students on its rolls. Later, he was the CEO of an engineering company that supervised the construction of major infrastructure projects in India and abroad. He's a trainer and a global speaker. Currently, he's also the teaching faculty of the Institute for Competitive Intelligence, Germany. He's the founder of Leadscape Advisors, a corporate leadership training company. I beg your pardon. Corporate leadership training company, an MSc and an MPhil. He's also an alumnus of the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, USA. He's also a certified life coach and leadership mentor. General Bali, thank you so much for sparing your time to be here today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shubhayu. Thanks to Achin, who's given me this opportunity. Thank you also to my fellow panelists for being here, Rashmi, Tyagi, and Mrs. Vineeta, Agnihotri. When Shubhayu was reading out my introduction, I was wondering what really makes me a qualified expert to talk about parenting. And I suddenly realized that I have, with my wife, raised 2 marvelous children. So maybe I can talk a little bit about what parenting is all about. Now, as always, I'm going to begin with a story. Many years ago, probably 40 years ago, when I was a young subaltern, sitting in the officers' mess, having lunch with other officers, sitting at the head of the table was our senior most guy there, a gentleman by the name of Major Chakravarti, now late. Major Chakravarti was a terror for all of us. He was an extremely strict officer, strict disciplinarian, and just the mere sight of him used to strike terror in our hearts. We literally went completely, mute in his presence. Sitting next to him was his young child, Arnab or Babu, eating lunch with him. And Babu was, I don't remember, but must have been 6 or 7 years old. And he was an extremely bright kid. So Major Chakravarti said, "Babu, eat your curd." And Babu looked back at him and said, "I will not eat this curd." We were all stunned. We'd never thought of anybody rebelling against somebody of the persona of Major Chakravarti. So Chakravarti looked back at him and said, "Babu, you will eat this curd." And Babu, without raising his head, said, "I will not eat this curd." So Major Chakravarti said, "Listen, till the time you are 18 years of age, you will jolly well do whatever I tell you. If I tell you that you have to eat curd, you will eat curd, right till the time you become 18. And Babu looked up and said, I know. And when I become 18, you will say, Babu, till 22, you have to listen to everything I say. And then when I become 22, you will say, Babu, when you get married, till that time you have to listen to me. And that'll go on and on. Coming from this little kid, probably lies a lot of wisdom at the heart of what is overprotective parenting all about. It's that control that we don't want to let go. We, as parents, have very well-meaning reasons to do that. I wouldn't say that anybody does it out of spite. But what a wonderful piece of wisdom, that if you can't let go, you won't let go. And it's all talk. So it's the desire to control what we perceive to be for the child's good. But eventually, if we are honest, it's for our own comfort. Without being able to dictate that, without being able to micromanage and control every moment, somehow we, when I say we, I mean the overprotective parents, just are not at ease with ourselves. So essentially what is happening is that we are, as Shubhayu just mentioned, vicariously living our lives through their lives, and doing this much more as a palliative for our own psychological feelings rather than for the child, much as we also mean well for the child. Now, parenting is critical. If you read that wonderful book called The Road Less Traveled by Scott M. Peck, he clearly says that parenting is probably the most critical attribute that is going to decide how you're going to turn out in the rest of your life. And in this book, he defines two very disparate elements of this. They look different: discipline and love. And he says love is the will to extend yourself for the purpose of nurturing others' growth. It is the will to extend yourself to nurture the other person's growth. Now, when we are overprotective, are we really nurturing the other person's growth? Let's be quite clear, as that book starts with, one short sentence: life is difficult. Life is meant to be difficult. It's a fundamental truth. And with discipline, with our ordered minds, we can solve many of the difficulties that life throws at us. And without discipline, without confidence in ourselves, without faith in ourselves and our abilities, we are not able to tackle the difficulties of that life as competently, as well as anybody else. So, when I'm talking about discipline, I'm not talking about discipline that controls. Once again, that'll be wrong. It is the discipline that is the self-discipline that gives the child the confidence and the competence to navigate through his or her own life. So when you control a child and don't let him make decisions for himself, are you really letting that confidence and that competence grow? Or are you merely dictating it like the master in a circus? And that is why love and discipline are partners. So when you discipline your child, or when you, not really discipline, but when you teach him how to discipline himself, you are also extending your love. So then what is the magic formula of balancing this whole business of love and discipline and so on? I suppose it is accepting the child's identity and privacy for his or her long-term good, while at the same time keeping a good lookout for any dangers that might come in his or her way. Right? And when we talk about dangers, we of course mean essentially physical dangers, but there are other dangers in life. But it is to respect his or her identity as a human being and his or her right to have privacy, while looking out for major dangers. Now, let me emphasize the word major. Major doesn't mean macromanaging what he must eat, what he must drink, how he must sleep, what he should do all the time, what clothes he should wear, who should he talk to, what friends he should have. Yeah, to a certain degree, you can, nudge the child in the right direction. But if this is what you're going to do, then you will take away all his freedom. After all, what is the goal of parenting? And when our children were growing up, we had this discussion many times. And I always said, we are raising children to fight the battle of life, not the battle of school. Isn't that true? we are raising children to a point where they no longer need our guidance as much as they do now. What is the point of training somebody if the child is going to be beholden to you for the rest of his life, and every time he has to take a call, he can't, because you used to take all the calls. So therefore, this is, I think, what really the the goal of life is. So why you mentioned that word helicopter parenting. Now, of course, helicopter parenting is a famous word, expression, which means paying extreme attention to child's every experience, every bit of knowledge he imbibes, every aspect of the growth. This can clearly be suffocating. It can be suffocating at any level, leave alone a child. Does it contribute to the child's safety? Yeah, sure. To a degree it does. But it undermines his or her identity as a human. It tells him that he or she is never going to be competent, or is not competent, to take even the smallest decision for himself. So by doing this, the parent doesn't allow the child to make his or her own mistakes. And what is the lament of such parents? They say, I have done everything for you. I did everything for you. Precisely because you did everything for the child, there's nothing left for the child to do. Isn't that ironical? Now, there are 5 big drawbacks of this kind of overprotective parenting, or what's why you said the helicopter parenting. First is, it fosters a lack of decision-making skills. Isn't that obvious? A child grows under you till it becomes 16 or 18, and all the decisions have been taken by you on a daily basis. And you are preparing the child for a world where decision-making is going to be one big factor in her success. 2, it underdevelops the basic life skills, like communication with others, because you are the one deciding which friends he's going to play with, who's going to turn out to be a good friend, who's going to turn out to be a bad friend, based on what you perceive to be the best. 3, studies have proven that it leads to high level of anxiety and even depression. You know why? Because there is an additional pressure on the child. There is a parent watching his every step, every move. I have a relative, my son was in 10th and that girl was in 10th too, and the results came out. My son did well, reasonably well. The girl did far better. And I saw her sobbing to her dad and saying, I'm sorry, Papa, I'm sorry, Papa, I'm sorry, Papa. Because she hadn't done well in her mind, as per his estimate. So we are, by doing this, burdening the child so early in life with this additional anxiety, additional stress. 4th is a low self-esteem, because what self-esteem can you have when everything else is being decided for you? And that's true for every age. If somebody else is going to decide where you should sit, what you should eat, what time should you sleep, what's good for you, then what self-esteem can you really have? And the 5th is the most ironical of them all. Children of overprotective parents tend to finally resent their parents. Nobody likes living in a jail. Nobody likes to be living in a situation where you have no freedom. When the child looks around and sees every other child having all the freedom in the world, or much more freedom in the world. And when they begin to realize that they are not confident enough because they were dictated to, that is what dented their sense of judgment, they start resenting the very parent who has invested 2 decades probably in thinking that he's doing a great act of love. Isn't that ironical? Now, let us look at the kind of skills that we need to navigate through today's life, today's world, and whether an overprotective parent is really imparting those skills. Now, this little list is not from any academic journal, it's my list. I think the things we need to impart in our children is a great and clear sense that life is meant to be difficult, that studies are meant to be hard, that examinations will foster certain anxiety. That life is difficult and you have to face it yourself. There is no other way other than facing life. Secondly, your ability to persist in face of adversity. Third, self-discipline. I don't think any attribute ranks higher than self-discipline. Fourth, the ability to make sense of chaos that life is going to throw at you. You know, we say in the army that the moment you cross the first line, the first bullet is fired, all plans become just a rough template because you have to improvise. There are too many dynamic factors happening. Same happens with life. You have to perpetually read the right patterns in the world around you and to make sense of what is happening. Why is it happening to you? Why are you not getting a raise? Why is your company not doing well? What is happening in your relationships? That is a wonderful, a plus to have. Frugality in the coming world. The ability to get along with people without which you really cannot be successful at all. Not as a leader, not as a colleague, not in your marital relationship. Understanding people through empathy and a larger worldview. Even courage and sense of responsibility. I'm going to talk about courage and sense of responsibility with two little stories from my childhood. But first, the point I was making is, these are not things that a parent can teach by rote. This is something a parent can teach by pushing the child into the big bad world, keeping an eye and letting him or her learn. So when I was preparing for this little interaction, I was thinking of my own childhood, and I just remember two things which might sound even weird to you, but I will say it. You know, we were little children, and my sister's 2 years younger than me. And as little children, we went to Jammu, and my father took us to the Tavi Canal. Now, if you've been to Jammu, you know that there are two parallel canals there. One is a bigger Tavi, and one is a smaller Tavi, which is really a stream. It's a canal. And my father stunned me by saying, take your sister's hand and walk across this canal. And the bed of the canal is sand. Now, the water wasn't very rapid, but it would rise right up to the nose level of my sister, and maybe a little lower than that for me. And I was really struck by what he was trying to do. And he stood on this, and you know, and it's not like we were 30 children in the house. I've been the only male child born in my family on either side for ages and ages. So I took my sister, and she was trembling, but I took her hand, and with great effort and responsibility, I took him to the other side. When I turned around, I saw my father looking very watchful, and he's a good swimmer. He was a good swimmer. And then he motioned us to come back, and we came back. When I look back at it, initially I always wondered, why did he put us through this? But I suspect in his own little way, he was giving us a dollop of courage, which later on came in very handy with me through much of my life. The second incident was that I was probably in fourth or fifth class, and I heard my father speak to my mom in the other room, and I realized they were talking about money, and it looked like we were short of money. We were a middle class family, a low middle class family. We never had too much money, but we were okay. So I heard that, and I told my sister, you know, I think our parents are having less money. So we get this magazine, Chanda Mama, every month. We should stop this. We'll save that money. And my sister couldn't make sense of what I was saying. So I went up to my dad and I said, you know, I want you to stop the Chanda Mama because I think you have less money. We should. What did Chanda Mama cost? Probably 10 paisa or 20 paisa, maybe 25 paisa. Okay. And there is no way stopping of Chanda Mama would have tipped the economic fortunes of my family. My father looked at me very carefully, and I suspect with some pride. And then he said, you're right. I agree. Thank you. And he stopped for 1 month. The next month he started it again. For 1 month we didn't get Chanda Mama. Again, when I grew up, I looked back at the incident and I wondered, why did he do that? You know why he did that? He recognized that I'm making a very adult choice. I am wanting a shared sense of responsibility in the family, and he must encourage me. Even now, an overprotective parent would have thought taking away a child's only magazine, only source of entertainment is hurting his emotions. He would have tried to protect me. He said, no, 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 what are you talking about? We have a lot of money. We don't talk. I'll decide what you have to do. I recall these two incidents. Now, towards the end, I want to talk a little bit about how sociologically we have reached a spot where more and more parents are becoming overprotective. The first reason is we are victims of affluence and better communication. We provide for our children, not because the children really need it, but because we can. We are spoiled for choices. We are giving them the best smartphones, this and that, and luxuries, which were unthinkable back then. And while there is nothing wrong in the luxury per se, but the fact is, we are doing it for our happiness, for that momentary smile on the child's face. But what are the consequences? Here is the thought I want to give you. We are preparing our children for a life of ease and luxury when the reality is that he or she is going to fight her way through the rest of her life. The parallel example would be that the army should treat its training with kid gloves and never hurt anybody, and never, the training should be very soft because we want to protect the army, when in actual battle, you're going to lose 400 people. We are not preparing our children well because we are affluent. We have communication. We have the ability to control. We have to watch their movements. We are doing it because we can, not because it is needed. Second, most people are marrying later now. So children are confronted with two new phenomena. One, older parents who now in any case are repositories of greater wisdom. And besides that, they have reached a point in life very quickly. They reach a point in life quickly when they have more time as compared to the younger parents. A younger parent had to do this job and run around and various things. Now the older parent has a little more luxury. In some households, only one person is working because of the affluence, that they can actually focus on controlling the child. And the second thing that is happening is the lack of siblings. Remember the days when people had 5 and 6 children? You got toughened up because you lived with 6 members of the same gang. Okay, now I'm not the one to recommend having more children, but I'm just saying this is the phenomena we got to really look at. So let me end. What should we do? We should obviously not put them consciously in harm's way ever. That's a given. No parent would. Certainly not physically, and even to some degree emotionally, and where a child may get hurt. But increasingly, we should let them get emotionally tougher on their own. In this game, balance is the key. So as parents, we have to have the courage to let go. Those two words are very important. Let go. Have the wisdom to see that even little children need to live and learn on their own. Have faith that and believe that beyond the nurture, there is also that powerful nature at play. That's going to need courage and wisdom. So let us not leap to rescue them emotionally and otherwise, unless there is cause to believe that this will cause a long-term damage. I will end by saying, in a manner of speaking, throw them in the deep end, let them learn how to swim, but sit by the side lovingly and keeping a watchful eye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think such sound parenting advice is not very easy to come by. And I'm quite sure that all of our members who have been listening have listened with rapt attention to every word you said. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker on this topic is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland, and a member of CIMA UK. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and a passionate traveler, Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shiva, am I audible?
Loud and clear.
I again welcome all of you to today's session on a very relevant topic. Let me start with a small incident. Few weeks back, on a Sunday, I went for a walk. It was around 6 a.m., early morning, and the city was barely up. I was passing on my way. I was going through a park, and on one corner of the park, I was passing a cricket academy. And suddenly what caught my attention appeared to be some kind of a feedback session, which was being given by the coach to a child who was roughly around, I think, should be around 10 years old. And the child was standing like a under trial, waiting for the judgment to be delivered. So much of seriousness, I could say. The coach was explaining something about the child's batting grip, as to why and how he needs to grip the handle of the bat differently. But what really was surprising was his father was recording the video of the whole session in his mobile, while the mother was anxiously looking at the child. Both parents were accompanying him. The sad part was the child didn't have an iota of joy or excitement in his face. It seemed more like a chemistry or economic class. I felt really sad. Why can't parents trust the child and let him play or interact with the coach on his own? Performance pressure has followed the child beyond the confines of the classroom and is chasing him even while playing cricket on a Sunday morning. He was breathing heavily and sweating profusely. I think an incident like this is a matter of serious concern. Serious concern, and also gives an opportunity of self-introspection for all of us, both in our individual capacity as well as members of the civil society that we live in. Now, a parent's concern and protective instincts for his or her child originates from the purest of intentions, and there's no doubt about it. Any parent wants the best of health, prosperity, security, peace, and happiness for his or her child. And that's natural, that's given. However, in the process, we very often overstep the invisible line and end up encroaching personal space of the child. And at times it happens even beyond his formative years. Now, when we discuss this term, overprotective parenting, few things naturally come to my mind. And these are self-explanatory, be it sheltering, constant supervision and micromanagement, prevention of taking responsibility. Every time the child wants to take responsibility for something, the parent steps in, doesn't allow him or her to do it. Excessive catering to every need or over-consoling. Whenever something happens which may not be exactly as per expectations. Controlling of the social sphere of the child. excessive caution, being risk averse beyond a point, and of course, creating dependency. Now, parenting principally is defined by protection at the early stages, but it can be an all-round phenomenon. A very heart-touching practice indeed is prominently seen among elephants. Elephants are known to protect their newborns with the help of the entire herd. There are young elephant babysitters in the herd who instantly engage in caring for the newborn once the baby is born. These young enthusiasts are none but maybe uncles, sisters, aunties of the newborn, and happen to have a specific name called allomothers. However, nature does not always cite examples of shelter, protection, gentleness, and humility while defining motherhood or while defining parenting. Motherhood is also about teaching the child to weather the rough waters. A very gruesome example is exhibited among the giraffes. Animal lovers may be aware that once the baby giraffe falls from its mother's womb, the mother constantly kicks the newborn up in the air to make the child fall back and hit on the ground. A very cruel exercise. A very cruel exercise indeed, coming from a mother who's held the baby in the womb for months. Now, nevertheless, it's this painful exercise that gets the baby giraffe going on its feet and face the world. So the moment we discuss about an overprotective child, say at school, certain pointers, certain features comes to our mind, and these are very sad, very, very sad state of affairs. A child who is dependent on others, lacking in maturity, a false sense of entitlement, easy target for bullies, very unfortunate, labeled misfit by his or her peers, not always, but very often, academically ahead and socially behind. And also, I think, lacking in knowledge of age-appropriate life situations. Now, we as parents try to push our child to a faster growth process, assuming that it will make the child smarter, more competitive, responsive to the constantly outgrowing needs of the ecosystem. However, is that really required to the extent that parents are currently indulging in? There are parents who try to protect their child by trying to micromanage every moment of their lives and then steer their kid towards a very small subset of academic institutions and careers. So they want to decide everything for their child. They want to leave nothing for the child to decide. Now, when we raise kids this way, our kids end up leading a very, very checklisted childhood, a very boring childhood. Safety, security, food, going to the right school, right class, right school, then right scores, receiving awards, being good at not only studies, but sports, other activities. But then at the end of the day, it's really great to be good in activities or sport, nothing wrong with it. But the fact of the matter is that why can't they also play sports to enjoy, to feel good about it? I think that's the most important objective. Why do we always expect them to perform? I think that's something which is really dangerous, really unwanted. And at times, even those activities or sports may not be child's choice, but basically what the parents want them to do, their own unfulfilled expectations. And they want to take all the decisions for the child to follow blindfolded. Okay, the parent may think, okay, I never got the opportunity to play tennis. Maybe I didn't have the privilege or the facility. Today I want my child to go to a tennis academy. It doesn't matter whether he or she wants to. So basically we want them to be like role models. And at times it puts them under severe stress and pressure. It's like the entire family looking up to a child. Everyone expecting him or her to be a role model, to be a superhero, which is inhuman, which is unfair. It's unfair to expect them to perform to levels of perfection. which at times parents never performed themselves. And add to that, and to make things worse, when it comes to today's age, social media, which has led to constant comparison, competition of posting real-time updates, which leads to, again, very cruel comparisons. And the result is that at times, unknowingly, parents end up judging the child. They come back from school, very often we ask them about their scores. So in a way, love also becomes conditional. Maybe the intentions are pure, intentions are very good. And our approval and acceptance of their natural self is dependent on how well they do in their tests, in their sports, in their activities. So that at times parents, they can go around and discuss those achievements in their own social circle, with their colleagues, with their friends, and feel good about it. However, the child loves the parent unconditionally, irrespective of how successful he or she is. In today's nuclear families, with I think Jal Bali also referred to this, I think Sir made a wonderful point. At times with both parents working, support system for kids is not like what we had during our growing up years. Where are those long afternoons of listening to stories from grandparents, or sitting with uncles and aunties in the evening, listening to stories, their own real life experiences, or getting a beer hug? It's a tightrope walk today. And where is the time for play? Every piece of homework, every quiz, every activity is a make or break moment, pressure to perform. We want them to do something that we have in mind for them. We want them to behave as if the fate of the world depends on the score of the next unit test. But there's a life beyond that. Even while they sleep, we expect the sleeping hours should be programmed in such a way so as to fit into their packed schedules. Now this continues even when they go for higher studies and further stretches to their professional career. So naturally, they end up growing up as underconfident individuals who cannot take their own decision. And at times in future, they will wait for colleagues or friends to give them a nod of approval. Because in the first place, they were never given an opportunity to decide for themselves. It's not their fault. And even before that, there are consequences of treating, say, for example, teenagers like small children. At times they feel outcast and pariahs in their own group, end up being dependent risk averse. And even beyond that, overprotected children, when they step into college, not possessing the life skills that are needed. At times, they can't relate socially to their peer group. If they're staying away from parents in a hostel or in a paying guest PG while pursuing their higher studies, at times they find it very difficult to live independently, unable to make small decisions. For every small decision, they wait for a nod of approval from parents. And at times, again, when this stretches to workplace, so very, very sad. But I have seen parents accompanying their children to their job interviews. Of course, out of good intentions, out of natural concern. But the fact of the matter is, we rob them of the confidence. At times, they are never given the opportunity to think independently. And again, this will lead to affect their family life in future, their relationships in future. Excessive parental involvement, imbalanced dynamics, growing up as extremely passive individuals. Now, but how do we raise independent children in the first place? Of course, I think most important is encourage trying. Encourage children to try new things, branch out, to get out of comfort zone, celebrate their effort of irrespective of outcome. If they're trying a new sport or a new activity, I think what we need to celebrate is the fact that they're giving it a try. They're trying independently. Encourage their contributions. I think as Sir shared a very wonderful incident. When children are trying to contribute, they're trying to take adult-like decisions. Of course, it's something that we really need to encourage. And small contributions, if they're trying to help the family, maybe by walking the dog, by putting the dishes away, helping a sibling to get to school in the morning. So responsibilities that teach them the value of trust and teamwork. Encourage problem solving. So rather than getting involved, in the first place, whenever there is a conflict or challenge, if we let our children to work it out themselves and not to give away answers on a platter, encourage them to communicate and analyze situation. So for instance, if they're trying to make, what if they say, for example, if they're going for sports and if they're forgetting their own shoes on the way to the game, the question is, the fact of the matter is, next time when they pack for themselves, of course, they'll be far more careful, building their confidence, teaching them new tasks every week, letting them choose if they're going for a social outing, if they're going for a party, if they're going for a birthday gathering. If they want to make their own choices, whether they want to wear black shoes or brown shoes or one particular dress, or for instance, if they want to have orange juice or apple juice, give them the opportunity to choose for themselves. I think decisions taken by anybody, and we need to accept this fundamental fact, can go wrong. But it's still very important to make choices, for better or worse. If they fall down, of course, as parents, we need to lift them up, dust their clothes, nurse their wounds, but let them run their own race. Of course, within a given framework, the broader framework at a macro level has to be controlled by the parent, no doubt about it. But within that, they need to be given their own territories, own turf, own kingdoms, when they can take their own individual small decisions and build confidence for themselves. So I think these were a few points that I wanted to share. We have a wonderful panel here today, and I sincerely look forward to their observations, their experience on this very interesting topic. I thank all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have a fantastic panel lined up for you. But before we go on to the panel discussion, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech brand. We create short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. Now, these videos come in handy in two cases. One is when you as a teacher need to play some content in your classroom and provide your students with a visual introduction. These videos that are perfectly tailored to the school curriculum do just that. Also, months later, when the students need to revise at home, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices. Be it a smartphone or a laptop or any connected device, they can watch these videos over and over again until they clearly understand what the topic exactly entails. I'm now going to play a short segment of a Notebook video for you so that you know what Notebook videos look exactly like. Can we have the video, please?
Hello everyone, welcome to Notebook video lesson. Today we shall discuss the story Make It Shorter. This is a story of the famous courtier Birbal. One day, King Akbar drew a line on the floor. He ordered the people in his court to make the line shorter without rubbing any part of it. Soon, it was Birbal's turn. He stood smiling all alone and watched as the others tried and failed. Birbal drew a longer line under the first one. He did not touch the first line at all.
How do you find out that something is being cooked? Yes, you're right, by the smell of it. Not only we understand, we can also identify what kind of dish is being cooked from the smell of it. Ants can rightly identify their friends with the help of smell, whereas dogs mark their territory, identify other dogs, and so many other things with the help of smell. But we need to remember that their senses are way sharper than ours.
A French philosopher and mathematician by the name of René Descartes loved to lie in bed and think. One day, while lying in his bed, he came up with a brilliant idea of how to describe the position of a point. He thought that in olden times, navigators described the position of their ships effortlessly. He applied a similar technique of describing the position of a point by using two lines, called the x-axis and the y-axis, arranged perpendicular to each other. In his book, La Geometrique, published in 1637, Descartes described his theory in detail, and from then onwards, this plane came to be known as the Cartesian plane, named after him.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was a short mashup of a few notebook videos. With that done, it is now time to introduce our panelists for the
Hello everyone.
We are privileged to have with us Rashmi Tyagi ma'am. Rashmi Tyagi ma'am is not a new person on this panel. She has been with us time and again, and it's always been a privilege to have her. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here and welcome back. It's always a privilege to have you. She holds a PhD in chemistry from IIT Roorkee, is a B.Ed gold medalist, and holds an M.Ed from Mumbai University. She taught chemistry at the University of Mumbai and MS University, Baroda. She worked as a principal in a CBSE school and was trained as a CBSE principal at IIM Bangalore. She has published various research papers in chemistry, environmental science, rural and urban farming, innovative teaching pedagogy, nanotechnology, biomarkers, etc. She has brought changes in various rural CBSE schools and educated rural women in health and hygiene. Her various projects include indigenous advantage of cow urine, hydroponics, and rural-urban farming. She has also worked with geospatial technology and has taken a filmmaking course in collaboration with the CBSE. She has given scientific talks on All India Radio and is a NABET-trained peer assessor for accreditation as selected by CBSE. She won the Ideal Principal Award in 2008, the Commendable Paper Presentation Award by NCRT CBSE Conference 2010, Educationist of the Year Award 2013, Science Communicator Selection India Science Congress 2015, and was honored by Srinagar University for her Aquaponics Animal Science Congress 2016. She was given the School Bus and Child Safety Award 2017, the Leadership Excellence Award UAE 2018, and the Lifetime Achievement Award 2020 by the Campbell University in the US. She's also been awarded for outstanding contribution to community in 2020 for innovation and excellence in rural education. The Sri Shakti Samman Award 2020 and a painting award in 2020. She has also won the C.V. Raman Education Award 2021, and I'm quite sure I'm still not naming all of them. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here. We also have with us Ms. Vineeta Agnihotri. Ms. Agnihotri is the principal of Ram Prasad Bismil Memorial Public School, Lucknow. She is also the district vice president of PCASWA, Private Association of Children Welfare and Principals Association of Lucknow. With over 14 years of experience in teaching and managing, she has an in-depth knowledge of the education sector. She is an excellent leader with ethical work principles, utilizing scarce or optimum resources. She has won various awards for excelling in the positions held during her tenure with previous education institutions. She visited the Honorable President of India, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, on the occasion of Children's Day, representing Srijan International School, Sidoli, Sitapur in 2014, and participated in capacity building program on co-scholastic aspect of CCE held by CBSE board in 2015. She has been awarded Certificate of Excellence in Drawing Competition by Ratna Sagar Private Limited in 2010, Certificate for Leadership Development of Minority Women by Unity Technical Institute in 2013, Certificate for Life Skills, Values, Gender, School Health and Well-Being at Teachers Summit in 2014, Shiksha Padma Samman, Lucknow in 2022, Shiksha Gaurav Samman, Uttar Pradesh in 2022, and Outstanding Leadership Award 2022. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here on this panel. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to hearing your views. This is when I would request the panelists to kindly switch on their cameras. I am facing a bit of a network outage issue, so I'll just try and get that fixed in the next few minutes. But once again, a very good evening and thank you so much for being here. Rashmi ma'am, if I may come to you first. What to you are the pros and cons of overprotection in the case of parenting?
Have you asked me this question? Good evening, everyone. This question I have to answer. Shubhayu?
Yes, ma'am. We're just looking for your views on this, and then we'll go across to Agnihotri, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful session. And with such great educators, I always say, because education is such a field that when you come to this, then we say that in some way you become, so much good for the society. And your question is really the need of the hour, I should say, because lots of transformations have taken place in the world. I will not say that in the education only, because when I'm talking today to you on this platform, educational platform, national, it is national and international also, then I should talk on the ground level. And whatever I have heard today, these people, I call them great, before me, two people have already spoken. And I feel that what they have spoken, this is what I'm going to speak. So all of us, as a teacher, as a parent, we have faced the same thing. So maybe it will be a repetition today, what I'm going to say now. So let's start from the historical part of it, of our lives. And first of all, I have heard the story and I have met my grandparents. And my father, he was the eldest in the family, and we used to have a big family, 4 or 5 children. And as my father, he was educated, he got a very good job as an engineer. So he was looking after his father's family also. So lots of, giving was there. This is what I felt, that his siblings, he was educating them and he was helping the grandparents, my grandparents. And then our family, we were also 5. And that way, when we are in a family, then lots of caring and sharing takes place. And because of that, we learn a lot of values, because in a family, we have got grandparents. And as, Mr. Bali also said that we have cousins and we have got aunts and uncles. So lots of not only caring and sharing, but the values, how to respect each other and how to just get everything, on a sharing basis. Even if the chocolates are there, then we say that everybody is going to, get the chocolates equally. And there is very good example, which is given by one of the panelists today. And Mr. Achin, I should say, that he talked about the animals and why the animals are having this tendency that they are in herd and they are looking after their children. So that is really very much appreciated. And now, are we doing that as parents? Are our children getting the same type of atmosphere what we were getting? We were very lucky. Our generation was very lucky. And that way, we were getting lots of values inside the family. Maybe in the schools, also we were interacting with many children from all walks of life. And nowadays, what I find that in the schools, there are, say, 20 children in a class, 25 children, and maybe 30. And in, CBSE, we have got 40 children. But that time, the schools were not that much, you can say from the rich families, all the children, they are coming from the rich families and the parents are paying so much of fees. So that way they were learning about everybody. So we were not that much pampered. Now the scenario has changed. Like my 2 children, I was looking after them, but they were sharing and caring also. And where they were studying, there also they were having friends and the teachers were strict with them. In our time, the teachers were very strict. The parents were very strict. And the parents were not overprotective because we were the 5 children and nobody was thinking of any nonsense that time. But now the scenario has changed. Our children, my children, they are having 1 child only. and the girls are working, and therefore, they can't have a big family, and they've got only one child, and that child is pampered. The parents, mother and father, they don't have time. And when they come back from the office, the child is like a, doll, and they brings the gifts for the child. And then whatever the child say, they just listen to that. So that way we become overprotective because only one child. And this is very, difficult thing to handle. Because after family planning, it was like hum do hamare do, and then only one, and maybe tomorrow tum hamare hum tumhare, that might happen. So that way I think the families are not the complete families these days. And I know personally also that some children, they are committing suicides. Personally, I know about it because of all these reasons. I was teaching in Arya Vidya Mandir, Mumbai, at Bandra. And so many children from Bollywood parents were coming. And, Aishwarya Rai, she's one of them, but she was a girl child and she had done very well. And then we had Pratik Babbar, Smita Patil's child, and he was not very confident and he was always afraid of something, So his personality was not groomed that time, but now he has become a successful person, and I'm really happy about that. And then Pooja Bhatt's brother was there, and such people were there. So some of them were good, but I don't say all of them were successful, and even some of them were just, sent to other schools. I don't want to say anything. So why these things are happening? So whether it is due to overprotection or it is due to the parents are not able to take care of the children. And now what I am hearing, that the big people, very, wealthy people, they don't have time for their children, and the mother is busy in the meetings and the father is abroad. And then I know one, example where the timetable of the child, 2.5 years old, it is just made, and the servants, they are going with him first to the computer classes, then to the dance classes, then he has the lunch ordered, and then in the evening also he's going to some classes. Maybe in the night when he's sleeping, that time the mother is entering home. And whatever I'm telling you, it is from my experience. This is not that I'm just talking like that. So this type of environment is there. So in that environment, what is the role of schools? What is the role of teachers in this? So lots of transformation in the society has taken place. What I have just discussed with you, the nuclear families have come, the parents are working. So now if the parents are overprotective, then what is their fault? Tell me, what is the fault of the parents? But now we have to guide them, or we have to transform the society. We have to counsel the parents, the teachers have to do that. And they have to be protective. Okay, the parents may be overprotective, but in which field? In the cyberbullying, because you know that the mobile has come, the digitalization of the world has taken place. So at that time, the child is alone at home. At that time, the parents, they have to be overprotective in just thinking and just controlling what he's watching. And that way you have to protect. What is the emotional quotient of the child? You have to be overprotective, that you are giving him some time, and even you can call your the grandparents for the child. So that way, something you have to do. So, and the life skills, now the 21st century skills. So this, what I'm talking, it is from the school and from the teachers, that their, social skills. How are we doing something for the improvement of their social skills? Are we doing something for the values and attitudes which is being given in the schools? and then ethics and integrity and the civic literacy. Are we telling them all this? Are we telling the small children good touch and the bad touch? That kind of overprotection we should do for our children. We have to teach them all these 21st century skills. Collaboration. Are we teaching them collaboration? Are we teaching them social skill for a child who is a lonely child? So how it is being done? I think this is the time we are just evolving on this point, because that is why you have brought this topic today. Why? To help the parents. So what I feel, we have to help the parents, that how the teachers and the school and the society is going to just help these children, to help these parents, So the 21st century skills, like I said, collaboration and then communication. Communication is not only speaking, but how you're speaking, how you're connecting to the people. So I feel that this is how we can find a solution. And then we have to bring back the, old traditional systems as far as the parenting is concerned. And they are really good. And I will say that Hum Do Hamare Do is a very good, slogan, and we should go for it. Thank you very much. And now Madam is there. I will like to listen to her also. Mrs. Agnihotri, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rashmi ma'am. Thank you so much for your views. Vineeta ma'am, once again, good evening and welcome to the panel. Now,
thank you, sir.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. So far, we've heard about the ill effects of overprotective parenting, right? We have heard mostly the cons of it, but I think Rashmi ma'am very interestingly spoke of some certain places where perhaps being protective is necessary, right, ma'am? Ma'am, therefore, my question would be, where does one draw the line?
Thank you, sir. And really, I appreciate Rashmi ma'am. Rashmi ma'am, I'm totally agree about your points. And first of all, I would like to say that at the time when Gaguri ma'am called me for this panel discussion, then I was very happy about that. Yes, I was the part of that particular panel. And after that, when I was in my bed at that time, I feel that really I'm also a overprotected mom for my child also. So I think that yes, this is a very biggest question in front of me also, because I justify that particular question or not, or I'll give the answer particular or not, because I have a daughter and she's a HR in GSW. And at that time when I left her in the Himachal, then really it is very heartbreaking for me. And I feel that it is very uncomfortable for me also, because in whole life and whole time at the time, I'll never leave her alone. So I think that I am a very overprotected mom also. But really, I feel right now, I feel that children have their own capacity and their own mind and own their status of mind. And we people are being a parents, I think हम लोगों को ये लगता है कि हम लोग बच्चों को बहुत ज्यादा प्रोटेक्टेड करते हैं, प्रोटेक्शन देते हैं. That is good. Being a mother, being a parent, it is good. I don't think so that it is not good. But at that time when children wants some space, we are overthink about that no, that thing is good for you and that thing is not good for you. Just leave it, just leave them, and just think about them, that yes, they have their own identity, they have their own status, they have their mind status, and they know very well. And after when we give them a free when we give them a free mind, then they feel about that, yes, this thing is a right and this thing is not right. So I think that whatever Rashmi ma'am has told, that yes, in previous time, when we will go through about the Vedic Kal, that Gurukul methodology is applied at that time. And that time when the Gurukul methodology, it doesn't mean that that time period parents were not love their child. They allow their children for the Gurukul methodology, and children go to their teacher and take the studies. So I think that was the very good period जब बच्चों को थोड़ा सा ये करा जाता था कि बच्चे फ्री रहते थे, उन्हें अपना माइंड अपनी चीजों को सोचने का टाइम मिलता था. एंड राइट नाउ टुडे सिनेरियो इज दैट व्हेन वी बोथ आर, व्हेन माय हस्बैंड एंड आई एम आल्सो वर्किंग, then we don't have enough time for our children, and at that time when we come in my home, then what happened, we are overprotected. We call back, वीडियो कॉल आपने नहीं किया बेटा, आपने ये नहीं किया बेटा, आप कैसे हो, आपने खाना खाया कि नहीं खाया. बट राइट नाउ आई थिंक जब मेरा बच्चा मुझसे इतनी दूर बैठा है, देन she handle each and everything right now. वो अब अपनी सारी चीजें हैंडल कर रही है. तो दैट मीन्स कि हम लोग हैं, ये हम लोग ओवर प्रोटेक्शन करते हैं बच्चों को, एंड दैट इज नॉट गुड फॉर, आई थिंक गुड फॉर द चिल्ड्रेन. So whatever the Neeraj sir has told us and the Achin sir, yes, really very, it is true very, because the helicopter methodology, that means कि एक मूवी भी आई थी हेलीकॉप्टर मॉम की, जिसमें शायद तब्बू मैम थी, एज ए हीरोइन थी उसमें. और हम लोगों ने जब उसको देखा तो उसके बाद घर में सारे ही लोग कहने लगे, यस यू आर वन ऑफ द हेलीकॉप्टर मॉम एट दैट टाइम व्हेन, तो आपके बच्चे बाहर जाएंगे तो क्या आप भी जाएंगे या करेंगे. सो रियली हेलीकॉप्टर मेथोडोलॉजी इज आई थिंक रॉन्ग मैम, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि बच्चों को फ्री, जैसे हम चाहते हैं कि हमें थोड़ा सा स्पेस मिले, हमें हमारी ओपिनियन, हमारी चीजें कहने के लिए जगह मिले, उसी तरह से बच्चों की अपना एक लाइफ स्टाइल है, बच्चों की अपनी लाइफ है. वॉट एवर दे थिंक, वो जो बनना चाहते हैं हमें उन्हें फ्री छोड़ना पड़ेगा. वी नॉट, हम लोग अपनी चीजों को उन पे नहीं थोप सकते हैं. राइट नाउ टुडे सिनेरियो इज डिफरेंट. जब हमारा टाइम था, हम लोगों के पेरेंट्स हमसे कहते नहीं बेटा आपको पढ़ाई करनी है, आपको ये बनना है, आपको वो बनना है. दैट इज गुड, दैट वाज द गुड दैट टाइम फॉर द ओके. बट राइट नाउ children wants to explore each and everything. So why we people are not giving them a space? हमें उनको स्पेस देना चाहिए, हमें सारी चीजें. और मुझे लगता है कि इसको रोकने के लिए सबसे अच्छा यही है कि बीइंग अ पेरेंट्स हमें अपना माइंड स्टेटस जो है वो थोड़ा ओपन करना चाहिए. जैसे हम अपनी चीजों को एक्सप्लोर कर रहे हैं, बच्चों को थोड़ा फ्री छोड़ना चाहिए हमें. और फ्री छोड़ने के बाद मुझे ये लगता है, जहां तक मेरा कंसर्न है एज अ पेरेंट, मुझे लगता है कि उसका रिजल्ट वाकई बहुत अच्छा आता है. और आज के जो बच्चे हैं, मुझे लगता है वो ज्यादा स्मार्ट है. एट दैट टाइम जब हमारा 2 years बैक कोविड का कंडीशन था, ये ओवर प्रोटेक्टेड बच्चों ने ही हम लोगों को न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी से गो थ्रू कराया. सो दैट मीन्स कि ये बच्चे हम लोगों से ज्यादा नॉलेजेबल हैं, ज्यादा स्मार्ट है और ज्यादा क्यूरियस हैं ईच एंड एवरीथिंग जानने के लिए. सो हमें ये नहीं लगता है कि हमें ये सोचना चाहिए कि नहीं हमारे बच्चे जो हैं, हम जो डिसीजन लेंगे दैट इज गुड फॉर देम, जस्ट लीव इट. हमें उनको छोड़ना पड़ेगा. हमारी जो ओवर प्रोटेक्टिंग पेरेंटिंग है उसको थोड़ा कम करना. आई नॉट टू टॉक टू अबाउट दैट कि नहीं प्रोटेक्शन छोड़ना पड़ेगा. हम बच्चों की केयर कर रहे हैं, हम बच्चों को प्यार दे रहे हैं, बट हमें एक्सपेक्टेशंस उतनी ही बच्चों से रखनी है जितनी कि बच्चे हमसे रखते हैं. हम भी उनकी बहुत सी एक्सपेक्टेशंस को फुलफिल नहीं कर पाते हैं. आई थिंक बच्चे ने कहा मुझे ये चाहिए, अभी मना कर दिया जाता है, नहीं that is not the good time, just leave it, okay, जब मौका होगा तब देंगे. सो क्या हुआ, ये हुआ कि मैं उसकी एक्सपेक्टेशंस को पूरा नहीं कर रही हूँ. एंड दैट टाइम आई डिड दैट, नहीं वॉट एवर आई एम आस्किंग अबाउट माई चाइल्ड वो उसको फुलफिल करके दे. तो दैट इज रॉन्ग. जब हम वो काम नहीं कर सकते तो आई डोंट थिंक सो दैट कि पेरेंट्स को भी ये सोचना चाहिए कि नहीं हमारे बच्चे भी वो करके देंगे. गुड मॉरल वैल्यूज, गुड एथिकल वैल्यूज और हमारी जो भी पुराने ट्रेडिशन है हम उनको बताएं, उन्हें वो फॉलो करें. बट हम उनको ये नहीं कह सकते, हम उनको बार बार उनको हम उनको ये नहीं कह सकते नहीं बेटा तुम्हें यही करना है. सो आई थिंक ओवर प्रोटेक्टिव पेरेंटिंग में जो भी चीजें हैं, मैं जो भी मेरे जो पैनल में है लोग और जो भी अदर मेंबर्स हैं, मैं ये नहीं कहूंगी कि बच्चा जब हमारा दुनिया में आता है तो पेरेंट्स प्रोटेक्टेड होते हैं, ओवर प्रोटेक्टेड होते हैं, छोटा बेबी है उसको हम ओवर प्रोटेक्टेड करते हैं। बट एट दैट टाइम बच्चा जब स्कूल जाता है, जब स्कूलिंग होती है, उसकी स्कूल लाइफ शुरू होती है, बच्चा टीचर्स के हाथ में जाता है एंड टीचर्स आर प्लेइंग द वेरी बिगेस्ट रोल इन द लाइफ ऑफ आवर चिल्ड्रन। बच्चों को वो सिखाते हैं कि कैसे उन्हें उठना है, बैठना है। जब हमारे पास एक बच्चा है तो हम उस पर फोकस कर सकते हैं, बट एट द टाइम व्हेन इन द क्लासरूम 40, 25 और 35 स्टूडेंट्स आर देयर, सो बच्चे को ही हमें सिखाना पड़ता है कि नो बेटा ऐसा नहीं करना है आपको। बच्चा सेल्फ डिसीजन लेता है कि दैट इज करेक्ट और रॉन्ग। तो हमारे क्लासेस में बहुत से बच्चे होते हैं, कुछ नोटोरियस होते हैं, कुछ एवरेज बच्चे होते हैं, कुछ बहुत अच्छे होते हैं। सो हमें उन लोगों को लेके चलना होता है। सो दैट टाइम पीरियड बच्चा अपने उस प्रोटेक्शन से निकलना चाहता है, एक शील्ड से निकलना चाहता है, एक जो शेल बनी होती है उनके चारों तरफ, उससे वो निकलना चाहता है। सो हम क्यों नहीं उनको फ्रीडम देते हैं, उनको इस चीज पे, ये उनका राइट है कि वो अपनी चीजों को सोचें, अपनी चीजों को समझें और उस चीजों को इम्प्लीमेंट करें। सो आई थिंक शुभायु दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माय साइड बिकॉज सो मेनी थिंग्स मैम ने जैसा बताया हम लोगों को, बहुत ही अच्छी चीजें मैम ने बताई एंड आई एम रियली इम्प्रेस्ड अबाउट दैट। और that's all from my side, Shubhai.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. But ma'am, मेरा एक follow-up question है.
Really?
As you said that teachers are in that position, right? That if there is overprotective parenting happening at home, the teacher can perhaps judge where the student needs to be brought out of the shell, where the student needs to get exposed to more experiences, correct? Ma'am, the problem is student will still after school go back home, right? Now, there is clearly a need to educate parents.
Yeah.
Today, Rashmi ma'am, you, General Bali, all of you are experts in terms of understanding the whole education, the child psychology, etc. Not every parent is. Ma'am, so is there a place for maybe counseling by the school for parents?
Definitely, sir. I think, sir, in my school, at that time, when the session is start, then we are doing a orientation program. Orientation means we all tell about that which methodology we can use at the time of the study for their child, and beside that we are also counseling the parents also. And we feel that those children who are very notorious and those children, those who are very introvert, जो बच्चे, उनकी एक कैटेगरी सर हम लोगों ने बना रखी है। मतलब हम पेरेंट्स को डायरेक्टली नहीं कहते हैं कि उनका बच्चा इंट्रोवर्ट है या बहुत नोटोरियस है या क्या चीजें हैं, बट हम उनके ग्रुप्स में उन पेरेंट्स को अपने पास बुलाते हैं, उनका पहले पूरा जो उनका बैकग्राउंड है उसके बारे में पूछते हैं, सुनते हैं उनके बारे में, एंड आफ्टर दैट उनकी काउंसलिंग, उनको इस तरह से काउंसिल किया जाता है कि वो बच्चे को अपने शेल से, जैसे सर बच्चा होमवर्क करता है राइट नाउ, होमवर्क करने पे हमें ये पता चलता है कि वो होमवर्क पेरेंट्स के थ्रू कराया गया है या वो होमवर्क बच्चे ने खुद अपने आप किया गया है। राइट नाउ हम फोकस ये करते हैं कि जो रोट मेमोराइजेशन है, जो लेक्चर मेथोडोलॉजी है, उस चीज को हम स्टॉप करना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि बच्चे को हम लोग ये चाहते हैं कि बच्चा अपने आप उस आंसर को, टीचर ने उसका कंसेप्ट अगर क्लियर किया है तो बच्चा अपने आप उस चीज को फाइंड आउट करे। ठीक है, तो ये चीजें बहुत जल्दी हमें होमवर्क के थ्रू और बहुत सी चीजें हम लोगों को पता चल जाती है। तो थ्रू काउंसलिंग हम लोग पेरेंट्स की भी काउंसलिंग सर करते हैं इसमें, और उसमें हाँ ये जरूर है, 100% तो नहीं कह सकते हैं क्योंकि बहुत से पेरेंट्स जो हैं वो थोड़ा सा अपने रूरल एरिया के भी तरफ से हैं, तो वो इन सब चीजों को नहीं मानते हैं, बिलीव करते हैं। वो कहते हैं घर में दादी हैं, घर में बाबा हैं, तो वो तो आप समझ रही हैं मैम, वो नहीं समझते हैं, वो तो हाथ पकड़ के काम करवा देते हैं। तो और वो चाहते हैं कि बच्चा उनके पास बैठा रहे, प्यार दे उनको, और वो पढ़ने नहीं देते हैं। तो वो सो मेनी प्रॉब्लम्स आर देयर, बट राइट नाउ वी आर ट्राइंग बेस्ट, और डेफिनेटली हम लोग कुछ हद तक पेरेंट्स को काउंसिल करने में थोड़ा सा हम लोगों को लगा है, और हम लोगों ने किया भी है उस फील्ड में कि कुछ पेरेंट्स हमारे जो है काउंसिल हुए भी हैं और वो हम लोगों का साथ भी दे रहे हैं। आई थिंक काउंसलिंग इज द बेस्ट थिंग, कि अगर स्कूल्स में पेरेंट्स की भी काउंसलिंग कराई जाए तो दैट इज गुड।
Thank you so much, ma'am. But the one of the points that you take, Rashmi ma'am, if we can go a little bit further, ma'am, you have experienced both the rural and the urban side of things, right? As you mentioned, you have been the teachers to the children of Bollywood stars. On the other side, ma'am, you've worked in extremely rural setups. Ma'am, is this behavior of overprotective parenting a largely urban phenomena, or is the same seen visible in rural as well? And if so, are the parents in both urban and rural receptive to that feedback from teachers? Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself, please. Ma'am, you're on mute.
That's a very tricky question. And my answer is the parents are parents. So whether rural parents or the urban parents or busy or not busy, they love their children. Only the situation around them, it, just categorize them that whether they are with the children, like in rural areas, mostly the mother is at home and she's, giving very good food to them. And then, at home also, they are having a lot of things. They don't have to go to some, places like big restaurants to eat this and that. So maybe they are, excuse me, having the cows at home. They are milking the cows. They are having dogs at home. They are having trees of guava or mango, and they are just climbing on the trees, which I was doing when I was, a child. In our home, we had all these fruits. So in the evening, we were playing in the lawns, and we were playing. I know Mrs. Agnihotri, the way she had spoken, I know we are having similar background. उनकी हिंदी इतनी अच्छी है कि मुझे बहुत ही अच्छी लगी. तो हम लोग बच्चे खेलते थे, आइस स्पाइस खेलते थे, और रिंगा रिंगा roses and all that. I remember those days we were doing all that. So that way, the parents were with us. So in, rural areas, they are still getting that kind of thing. So there we cannot say much. And in Maharashtra, rural areas, they are having very good schools. Their buildings are better than the buildings in Mumbai. So, and they are having the facilities also over there, but they are getting, as far as the urban parents are concerned, most of the time, commuting from here and there, but still they love their children and they give the time to them, and some are not able to give time. And here I will say, like Vineeta ji, she said कि हमें बच्चों के ऊपर कुछ उनसे क्या करना है, उन्हें फ्यूचर में इस बारे में हमें बच्चों को तंग नहीं करना है. तो विनीता जी, मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि अगर हम करना भी चाहेंगे तंग, तो हम नहीं कर सकते. अब उसका आंसर देखिए क्या है. इतने बदलाव आ गए हैं. सो मच ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हैज टेकन प्लेस. अभी देखिए मेटा सर्व आ गया है. तो अभी क्या इंजीनियर्स लोग वही काम करेंगे? डू यू थिंक द इंजीनियर्स आर गोइंग टू डू व्हाट दे वर डूइंग? क्या आप अभी बोलेंगे अपने बच्चों को कि यू हैव टू बिकम इंजीनियर फ्रॉम IIT एंड देन यू विल बी डूइंग दिस? कैन यू जस्ट प्रेडिक्ट दैट व्हाट आर गोइंग टू बी द profession available in the next decade, maybe after 2030? इस दुनिया का क्या रूप होगा, ये तो हम आज कह ही नहीं सकते हैं, because everything is going to change tomorrow. Robotics is there due to meta serve, the machine learning, the robotics, the digitalization, and along with you, the principal, the teacher, the robots will be just sharing your work. They will be there. So there is going to be, if not 360, at least 180 degree, turn. So about the profession, we cannot tell the children what they should do. But on the contrary, I will say that lots of progress in entertainment industry is taking place. And because of that, we are telling that creativity, as per the Bloom's taxonomy, creativity is coming. Whether they can write the poems, they can write the dialogues, they can write the songs, they can write the storyboards, they can direct the film, they can be behind the camera. Because what I'm finding, the entertainment industry is becoming very much, known everywhere. We are watching every day, the WhatsApp and this and that. And also, some new things, new kind of automobiles will be there, and whatnot. So we will not be able to tell the children what they are going to do. Actually, the parents will come to the school and to the teacher that what should we do, or let's wait and watch. That is the best thing. And now you are saying, like, what is going to happen? what is the role of the teacher? So Mrs. Agnihotri, you know it, that the role of the teacher, role of the parent is to be a facilitator, to be a friend to your children. So that's why your question, urban area or, this rural area, the parents are same and they are going to face this meta serve together. So they have to, it is our duty, like Madam said, she's having counseling for the parents. So we should have the counseling from the Ministry of Education, from the principals, from the teachers and all that. So we can have a parity of these two types of parents, but the rural parents, they are, and the rural children are in a better situation today. Thank you very much. This is what I want to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was all the questions I had, and thank you so much for sparing your time and your valuable insights. General Bali, I saw, sir, did you want to add something? General Bali, sir?
Not really. I was listening to everybody with a lot of attention. या मैं अगर विनीता जी के लिए बोलूँ तो मैं जो कह रहे थे उस बात में बिल्कुल तल्लीन हो गया था, अगर मैं सही हिंदी बोल रहा हूँ. So no, I really don't want anything to add. There is a question that Saujanya had asked in the chat, which said, why should we be worried about all this? We should be teaching gender sensitization. Maybe I can add just 2 lines in this. I was CEO of a rural education society, and we were running 92 schools and colleges. It was in Maharashtra, where Rashmi ji just praised the infrastructure. And I started talking to the industry and started asking them, why don't you give job to our children? Hamare engineering college ke bachchon ko aap job kyun nahi dete? So they gave me 2 answers, one of which was surprising. एक तो जवाब ये था कि जो आप पढ़ा रहे हैं वो रेलेवेंट नहीं है. दुनिया कुछ और कहीं और चली गई है. The software you're teaching or whatever you're teaching is not largely relevant. Children are not battle ready. But the second answer was more surprising. They said your children don't have soft skills. They don't know how to deal with each other. उनको मालूम ही नहीं दूसरे से कैसे deal करना है, etc. etc. That I started thinking कि जब हमारी जिंदगी में लोग इतने important हैं, especially dealing with the opposite sex is so important. You're living with human beings in your own family, and half your happiness depends on it. How is it that we are not even teaching about this? How is it that we are not focusing on this? हम दुनिया भर की Pythagoras और sin theta, cos theta पढ़ा रहे हैं, जिन्हें मैं जिंदगी में दोबारा मिला ही नहीं कभी. I never met Mr. Cos theta, but we are not teaching them this. So I agree with Saujanya's, the heart of his question or her question, I don't know, that we should be focusing on this. And I think the other 2 ladies are more qualified to talk about this. But
please give an opportunity to just whatever Sir has said, Mr. Bali has said now, because I always say that we have to teach the children that how they have to behave in their professional lives, social lives, and personal lives. And what we are finding out that so many breakups and divorces are taking place. Then I always say that at the adolescent age, we should teach the children that how they should behave with each other. And then a girl, when she gets married, she goes to a new family. Have we ever told her that how to adjust there? See, in our times, our grandmothers were there, aunts and uncles were there, and they were telling us that how we have to behave. But now the children, they fall in love and they get married, and we are not giving them this kind of counseling. So as per Mr. Bali's this thought came to my mind, and that's a very good thing which he has spoken. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. General Bali, first of all, thank you, sir, so much for the wonderful start that you gave us. As I said, parenting is something that you perhaps get advice from a lot of quarters, but a few of it is very rarely grounded in such solid empirical evidence. And sir, I think you did fantastic. I mean, that particular segment of, sir, your initial opening speech will, I think, go in the Hall of Fame of parenting advice. So, sir, thank you so much for that. Rashmi, ma'am.
Shubhayu, you just earned yourself more than one dinner next time I come to Kolkata.
Done, sir.
Thank you, sir. Rashmi ma'am, thank you so much once again for being here with us today. It's always a privilege to have you on the platform. You have been one of the strongest proponents of the Together for Education initiative. Ma'am, the various aspects that you spoke about, particularly the aspect that you spoke about where you said in certain cases, perhaps there's a need to be a little overprotective. Perhaps there are things like cyberbullying and other things that require the parent to be slightly more careful. And ma'am, that point was very well taken. Thank you so much for that. Vineeta ma'am, I think we threw you a few questions that were not prepared in advance. But ma'am, your experience and your sensitivities towards parenting, I think stands all of us today here in good state. To the audience who've been here today, thank you so much for supporting us on yet another episode of Together for Education. We shall see you again next week. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and goodbye.
Thank you, sir.